Good morning. Hope you're all well. Nice to see you. So, as always, we'll just have a few props ready. So let's have a block, blanket, belt, the usual stuff. Have a couple of blocks that are the same if you can as well. So it's always worth having 2 bricks or 2 flat blocks if you can. And then I think we're ready to go. So we're going to come and we're going to lay down. So actually, I'm going to remove my socks before we lay down. So let's come and lay down. And laying down, we can place our feet to the floor. We can adjust our pelvis as we need to. We can take our arms out wide. We've got the cat joining us today. And we can take some slow, deep breaths here. So let's just check the position of our feet, so we can adjust our feet so they're not too close to the buttocks, they're not too far away. There's that sort of just right position where there's ease in the legs, the space at the back of the knees, the space at the front groin area, at the top of the thighs. And then we close our eyes. If you're comfortable to do so, of course, it's fine to keep your eyes open, but try not to get involved in whatever you see around your space you're practicing in. And then we'll just turn our attention to our breath. So we'll take some slow, steady breaths here. And we can feel those breaths just calling us to awareness with each inhalation and guiding us to release with each exhalation. So it's as simple as that. This is, the whole of the path, we could say, of yoga, coming into awareness and letting go. So we can feel this in the process of the breath, but we can let that expand out into the body. So I'd like us to be able to really tune into feeling the body here, softening the body here. So it's like we're able to switch on awareness of the whole of our being. So often our awareness is head-centered or task-centered. But here it becomes an embodied awareness. Okay, so we're just going to raise our arms up towards the ceiling for a moment and just feel into a little extension, so we can let our shoulder blades lift up off the floor. We can raise our arms up so the palms face towards each other. We bring a little bit of tone into the belly as we do this. And then we're going to take some wide circles of the arms. So first of all, drawing them up above the head in that direction towards the floor, but we're going to stay off the floor and we're going to skim just above the floor as we draw the arms down by our sides and then raise them back up. So let's move through that action a few times. And as we move through it, we're going to feel into how the breath unifies with this action. That the breath and the body, they want to come together. They are one. They only become separated through the separation of our awareness. But what we'll notice is that they are part of the intricate system of the human body that is codependent. Okay, now let's change the direction. So having the arms above the head, just close to the floor, they're going to come back up and then they're going to come down by the sides of the body and then they're going to skim up above, just hovering above the floor out to the side so we can move through this action. So again, we create these 2 big wide circles with our arms. and the breath flows. So we can feel that it's being carried out at a very natural pace. It's a sort of wholesome action. Wholesome in that it brings us into whole. That we find this relationship between the body and the breath. Okay. Now let's just bring that back to a pause. So we'll bring our hands down onto our belly for a moment and we'll take another slower, deeper breath here, breathing through the nose if you can. And really giving. So sometimes we quite enjoy a sigh out through the mouth, a deep inhalation through the nose and a sigh out through the mouth, because there's a more overt letting go that happens in that. So if you find that useful, then go ahead and breathe in that way. And we'll just bring the knees up towards the chest now and hold each knee in each hand. Have a little rock across your back so we can loosen up the back of the body here. And then we're going to go through a similar action with our knees. So each knee in each hand, we're going to start by drawing the knees in towards us, taking the knees out wide, and then taking them away. Now, of course, we're limited by the reach of our arms. So unless you are an orangutan, then they're not going to move that far away. I'd like to think that there were some orangutans in my class though. So we can just feel into that. But what we're feeling into is not just this movement, this circling of the knees, but the rotation of the thigh bone within the hip joint. That's what we're going to really tune into here. So as we feel into that, we can feel it's like a little stirring around in the hip joint of the thigh bone. We can feel into the gradual extension through the inner thighs and the engagement that may come into the buttocks as we extend the knees out. We can just feel the rocking up and down the back as well, the rolling up and down the back of the pelvis, the lifting of the lumbar, the back of the waist, and the lowering to the floor. So this simple action has a ripple effect of movement through the body, and we're tuning into all of it, but in a way that's spacious. So this is what we might call an open presence, this awareness. It's able to hold the multitude of experiences without overwhelm, because there's a spaciousness to it. We're not being asked to sort of have the hyper focus on every element of our experience. And this is sometimes when, we can feel that, lots of information coming at us seems like it's too much. But here, because we are holding it in an open presence, a sort of almost, rather than clinging to each aspect, it's like a big, broad hug that can hold many people. If you've had a group hug, rather than trying to cling on to each individual separately, which is not possible, we have to open that space, and this is what we do in our yoga practice. Okay, now let's change the direction of those rotations and feel into the flow of the breath as well. This is a great anchor point in our yoga practice, our breath, because if we do lose that sense of open presence and we can't quite receive the complete experience, or we get pulled into other things, into distraction, dissipation of the mind, and then we draw ourselves back in via the breath. So the breath is at the epicenter of the experience. Okay, well done. Let's release the feet down to the floor now. Take a few breaths here, because actually, although it's a simple action, it's surprising how much work is involved in that. We can watch and observe and absorb. Okay. So feeling the release through the legs, through the groins, through the hips. Okay, now let's raise both legs up. We can take our arms out wide and we're going to play with this little sort of crossing, this sort of scissoring action of the legs. So just swinging the legs through the air. Hopefully you have the space to do that. And as you play with that action, we are getting this cross of the legs relatively high up the thighs, if that's possible. If it's less possible for you, it's okay that you might be crossing more like this at the shins, at the knees. But if you can get into that swing, then you can, again, we can feel that movement within the hip joints. We can feel the engagement of the abdominal muscles, so that soft, light support that they provide. Again, we feel the breath at the center of the experience. It holds everything together. It's like the binder. Okay, let's come back to the center and then we'll cross the left thigh over the top of the right thigh. And we're going to just reach if we can now. So you can let that left knee bend. You can lift up your head if you need to. We're going to reach forwards and take hold behind the thigh of the right leg. That's it. Okay. So the right leg is in extension up towards the ceiling. The left leg, knee is bent. And then we can feel into a little movement here. So we're going to allow ourselves to rock across the back a little. So our raised leg becomes like an inverse pendulum. And we can just feel into that movement. So we'll be limited in how far we rock here, because if we rock too far over, then there's a point at which we sort of tip like this. We'll tip right over. So we can just feel within that area that allows us to maintain the control of the action. And again, the breath is at the center of it. Okay, now we're going to bend that extended leg. So both knees are bent now. Okay, and we're going to feel into a little side-to-side movement through the legs, but we're going to use our hands for support of this. So we can start, we've all got the left leg on top, we should have now. So we're going to start by just drawing that left leg over towards the right, so we can use our right hand to hold the knee and guide it, not force it, over towards the right. We're just dipping into it because we're going to draw the legs back in and then take the legs over to the left, but then the left hand comes in to sort of catch that top knee. So it supports it from underneath. So as we move towards the right hand guides the legs in that direction. And as we move towards the left hand catches the legs and supports from beneath. So we're not going all the way down to the floor. We may eventually start moving all the way down to the floor with the legs, but you know, when we're early in our yoga practice and we're currently practicing early in the morning here, the body needs a little time and space to wake up to these actions. So this is why we're providing this support, so we don't have to go so far over. Okay, now that's probably enough. We can come back to the center. We can bring the foot down to the floor. We'll unhook that top leg, place the foot to the floor, and we'll just adjust the body so we can press into the feet. We can have a little shake out, a little wiggle out here, and then just take some deep breaths again. So as you take those deep breaths, we're watching the body, we're feeling the body, we're tuning in. And what we're tuning into, we get guided into the body through the senses, through the experiences that we can feel in the body, the sensations of release, the sensations of engagement, whatever it is that we feel and experience. But then actually what we're tuning into is what's beneath that. We're tuning into the receiver. Okay. Okay, let's raise the legs up again. We'll go for this little swinging action that we went for before, so we can swing through the legs once more. That's it, back and forth, breathing into it. And then when you're ready, we're going to cross the, I've forgotten which leg we're crossing over. We're crossing the right leg over the left leg this time. Okay. And then the left leg is extended up. So again, we cross high up the thigh if we can. It's okay if you can't do that, so you can just rest your shin against your shin if you need to. And then we can reach forward, so you can lift up your head if you need to be able to take hold of the thigh. And I didn't say on the first side, if it's difficult for you to reach your thigh, you can just wrap your hands around the shin of this top leg. So that's an alternative. And again, we're playing with this little side-to-side movement. So just letting this extended leg move from side to side as we rock across the back of the body. But again, we're staying within the zone of control. So we can feel there's that point which you roll over to, and you can feel that if you go any further, that the body is going to tip. Okay, so this is where we feel at that edge of the tipping, you can feel your abdominal muscles working to support you, to hold you there in place. And then we just give to it. It should be an experience of dropping in. As we move with the body in this way, we're called into awareness, we're called into presence, and that can be a really joyful experience, because so often we're called out of presence. And not that it's, we're not having joyful experiences in our life, but most of the time when we experience joy, we're really present in that moment, whatever it is that is creating the joy. We're not distracted. Okay, let's come back to the center, and then again we're going to bend that extended leg. We're going to release, keeping the feet up off the floor, and then again we're going to go for that little twisting action. So you're going to take your legs over towards the left this time. So you take hold of the knee with that left hand, you guide the leg over just enough to feel into that twist, and then you take the legs to the other side and your right hand's ready to catch the legs. Okay, so you support the outer edge of the knee, so we can feel into this action, the guiding and the catching. Breath is, again, it's at the heart of it, isn't it? Notice the difference. I mean, I've been practicing yoga for a really long time. Since the mid-90s, so I'm not going to add that up now, but I still, even to this day, can sort of catch myself dropping out of awareness. Almost every time I practice, there will be moments where I can drift, I can become distracted. So, it is a practice to keep bringing ourselves back into this state of absorption with our practice, and the breath is definitely our most useful key to that. Okay, let's come back to the center, and we'll place our feet to the floor, so uncrossing the legs, pressing the feet into the floor, having a little shake out of the hips and coming back down, and just watching. So maybe we become aware of just how much the belly was working for us. Maybe we can feel into all of that release through the thighs, through the hip flexors. So we might feel release at the top of the front of the thighs, at the top of the inner thighs. Okay, wonderful. Let's roll ourselves onto our side. Let's come up from our side and we're going to come up onto our hands and knees. So let's turn ourselves over and we're going to play with a little bit of movement now. So we've worked quite a lot through this twisting action and into the hips, so it's nice to get a little bit of length into the body, I find, after those actions. So we'll have our hands a little further forwards of our shoulders, and I want you to, so you've got this angle to your arms, and we're going to move up and down the mat, so almost like we're drawing towards a child pose, but our buttocks aren't going to meet our heels. If your buttocks do meet your heels, then you haven't taken a long enough stride on your mat. So I want you to just play with moving your body up and down through those actions. So we can draw back and we pull back. So we want this little hovering above the heels, because then we've got a little bit of space to move into. So as we extend through the body and as the body starts to give to this, there may be a little more descent towards the heels. If we're already meeting the heels, we've limited how far we can extend in the body here. So tune into that, lean forwards and draw back. Now as we lean forwards, we can even take a little hovering here. We can let the hips dip forwards. We can weight bear through the arms a little. So we can play with how we engage the body. And this obviously has physical benefits in how we work the body and where we work the body. But again, there is a broader benefit which we would think of more in line with the traditional goals of yoga. That it serves this purpose of waking us up to our whole experience. Okay, when you next lean forward, you're going to tuck your toes, you're going to lift your knees, and we're going to push this back into a downward facing dog. Okay, so as we push back into a downward facing dog and we play into this, we can have a little bit of movement. You can sway through your hips, you can bend the knees, you can have a little movement around. You can push through your arms. I'm just going to briefly remove a layer here. So whilst you're playing into that, we're feeling into it. And again, we're looking for this open presence which gives us a broad experience of the body, but we can also hone into particular experiences. And this is a kind of like, it's like magnifying parts of the body as well. And the reason we may do that is partly because we may be having a rich experience somewhere in the body that requires our attention, but also it's a way of sort of refining our awareness, drawing us into an experience. So that open presence does take some skill to not just move into sort of distraction or even dissociation if we're, spacing out. But we want this refined awareness. So this is why we can use particular experiences to refine our awareness, and then we can expand out from there. Okay, let's bring the feet in towards each other. You've been there a little while, I'm aware, but so take a break if you need to, but if you're happy to raise a leg up and lift up into it and deepen the hands into the floor to extend up through the body, there may be a little turn of the body into this, and we can even play with a little bit of movement through the leg, through the foot, through the toes, and then we'll bring that foot down and we'll do the same on the other side. So again, we can lift up. It can be a straight lift or there can be a little slight rotation of the body as we play into it. So just lean into what your body feels it wants to do here and now. That's it. Wonderful. Okay, let's bring the foot down to the floor. Let's bring the knees down to the floor. Let's sit back on our heels. That's it. Rest your hands there in your lap and take a breath. Take support if you need to between buttocks and heels, beneath the ankles, or an alternative posture if kneeling's not so good for you. And then find the breath. And take a moment to just be. No looking ahead. No looking behind us. Just simply being here now. And feel the ease of the body softening into this. And if we follow that softening of the body, we follow it to the end point, to what we're being softened into. So we're being softened into release, dissolving. Okay, well done. We're going to bring ourselves up to standing now. And this is where I'd like you to have a couple of blocks that are the same size. So if you've got brick blocks, great, we'll use those. Flat blocks are fine as long as they're stable and not too soft, or just two things that are the same size that can be used for support like this. So, you know, even a couple of jars or something at home can be used. So we're going to stand back of our blocks, and hopefully we've got space in front and space behind. So if you stand in the center of your mat, even if you're in a relatively confined space where you're practicing, you should have enough room for this. Okay, unless you're very tall. Okay. So we'll bring the feet in towards each other. We'll release our arms down by our side. We'll bring a little light tone to the belly and we'll lift up. And we're going to feel that lifting up from the floor. So the feet are deep into the floor. We're rising up through the front of the body. And there's a lightness to this. And that rising up, it's not just so much us pushing and lifting the body up. It's a flow. It's the rising of energy through the body. And in many respects, we experience that lift and lengthening through the process of not trying to lift and lengthen. It's through the process of giving to the sort of natural order of Tadasana. Okay. Now we're going to fold ourselves forwards through a Virabhadrasana number 3. So let's take one leg back. So we can take the right foot back so we can all do the same leg together. So we'll take the right foot back. We're going to hinge over the thigh of the left leg as we raise the leg up and we dip the body down towards this T-shaped position. We can have our arms down by our side. We're breathing. And then we're going to bring our arms forwards if that's possible. That's it, breathing. And then we're going to take our hands down to our blocks. So this is where we can adjust where they are. So we want enough space between our foot and our blocks that the body can stay long. Okay, we breathe. Okay, now let's just bend that standing leg and let the body fold down, dip down into it. We can transfer our hands to the floor. We're keeping the leg raised. We're just dipping down to make contact between the torso and the thigh. We're breathing into that. And then here we're going to tuck that raised knee in towards the body and take a deep breath. Feel into that broadness across the back of the pelvis. And just because we're coming into something that maybe requires more concentration, We're not losing that essence of yoga, that integration. We're feeling into the whole experience and we're dissolving into it. Let's extend that leg back out. Let's bring our hands back up onto our blocks and then push through the foot. So it's a little bit of a push to get ourselves back up from there. And then we're going to come down by bringing the foot down next to the other one, taking a pause here, breathing, feeling into any movement, maybe have a little shake out of the legs. And we're going to stay here with our feet in together. We can walk our blocks a little further forward, so there's a little angle to our arms again. Okay, and this is where we want the firm blocks or the firm support. So we're going to lean forwards, lifting up the heels, bending the knees, and we're going to just dip our knees down towards the floor. So there's a little support, weight bearing through the blocks. My knees are just, you can see I can swing here because I'm just kind of kissing the floor with my knees. I'm not dropping my weight. The weight bearing is through the arms. And then we push back. And we draw back and we take a breath and we take another breath of appreciation that we can feel all of these wonderful experiences in our body. And then we can bend the knees and sit back again, making that contact between the rib cage and the thighs, finding the breath. Releasing the hands from the blocks, taking the arms back. Having a little bounce, and then we'll raise ourselves up into an Utkatasana position. Now play around with this. Have a bounce around. Obviously, if you need to release before I say, you can come up, but whilst you're there, just feel into any movement that gets into those parts of the body that might not yet have woken up. So a little swaying from side to side can be really useful, even a little turning into it. Okay, well done. Let's push through the feet, inhale and come up. Release the arms down. Find the breath. Soften your forehead, release your jaw. And if you need to separate your feet in Tadasana, you can take the feet to hip width apart. If they're comfortable to be together or close to each other, that's fine too. So we feel into the ankles, knees and hips, and we let the body guide us. Deep breath. Okay, well done. Now we'll probably need to move those blocks back a little because we extended them forwards for our movements, but we've got them there ready for coming down from our warrior 3 position. So we're going to start by just taking the left toes back behind us so we can start to establish our support through the right leg. And then with tone in the belly and keeping this length through the front of the body, and we're going to hinge over the top of the thigh of the right leg as we raise the left leg up. So we tip forwards, we breathe, leg raises. And then in your own time, again, we're going to see if we can take our arms forwards. Bring our hands down onto our blocks or our supports. Breathing here. And then again from this position, we're going to bend the standing knee to bring the rib cage into contact with the thigh. You may lower your blocks or bring your hands down to the floor. And we breathe here. And then again, we're going to tuck that knee of the extended leg, the lifted leg, in towards the body. And then we're going to stretch it back out, breathing through it. Okay, well done. Let's bring Our hands back up to our blocks. That's it, extending the arms, breathing, taking the blocks a little further forwards. Okay. Deep breaths. And we'll bring that foot down and we'll just sit back again like we're, I don't know, it's almost like a downhill skiing, but I guess your arms would be back. But sitting down into it, playing into it, breathing into it, having a little bounce around, and then we'll release our arms down by our side. That's it. We'll tone the belly, we'll lift the chest, and then we'll raise our arms up, keeping the knees bent. That's it. Have a little play. Have a little bounce out. We can move the arms. Okay, let's push through the feet and inhale and come up. Let's release the arms down. Take a breath. And just pausing in Tadasana. Again, you can have your feet together or up to hip width apart. Feel the breath. Okay, let's take the feet hip width apart if your feet are still together. Interlace your fingers, turn your palms forwards, raise your arms up, lift up, have a little wiggle, have a little shimmy out, and then extend up into the palms. Keep toning the belly and let's take a little lean over towards the left. And we'll breathe into that and we'll reach into the center of our palms. You can let your right hips or the right hip slide back, so there's a sort of bananaing of the body here. And then we'll come back into the center. Have a little bit of movement so you can find your center. And then come over to the other side, and again just feel your breath at the center of it all. It really is the thing that transforms our practice. Okay, we'll come back into the center. We'll release our fingers. We'll release the arms down in a wide circle. Let the arms hang. Let the breath flow. Let's just bring the hands up to the heart center for a moment. And we'll pause here. Breathe here. Rest here. Okay, we're going to come down and we're going to sit in a cross-legged posture. Okay, so we can draw our buttock flesh out and back behind us. We're coming into Sukhasana, which is nice and compact. The knees aren't too wide in this, so we're aligning the knees and the feet thereabouts. We've got a little bit of space. And we can have some support if we need it. So just pop a block underneath your seat or a folded blanket. If your shins are lifted, we can take a little shin support. So we're looking for the body to feel upright, but in a very natural way, that we don't have to put a lot of effort in to maintaining this upright position. So if it feels effortful, then we take some support. We place our hands on our knees, and again we can close our eyes if we're happy to do so, or just soften our gaze. And then we feel back into the breath and just feel into the breath within the body. So we're not just feeling into this entity as like a pocket of air that moves in and out, but we're feeling into its relationship with the whole body. So we can feel the subtle movement that ripples down through the body. We can tune into the breath as prana, as life force. So there can be this deep appreciation of each breath that comes in and nourishes the body. Each breath that leaves the body and brings release. Okay, hands on the knees, just a little brief circling around the pelvis, so we can let the body really move into this. So it's not just a sort of stiff movement, but we can kind of roll the body, ripple the body through it. So just feel into it in a way that feels natural for you. Just a few rotations in one direction, and then in the other direction. And then bring it back to the center. Take a breath. And then we're going to release, so we can extend our legs out and give them a bit of movement if we need to. Sometimes we like to have a little energy bath of the legs or a little shake out after that. And we're going to come to lay down, ready for Shavasana, but you might want a little reclined twisting action before you lay yourselves down. So we can take our arms out wide, we can adjust the pelvis, lifting it up, reaching it towards the feet with the knees bent. And then we can take this little descent of the knees from side to side. So we can just feel into that little stretching out, that little release that's brought to the band of the waist. So that's the belly and the lower back and the sides of the waist. You might want to hug your knees into your chest and have a little rock across the back again. And then you may lay yourselves down for Shavasana. So of course, we lay ourselves down, we're reclined in kind of this position, but we might have our hands on the belly or on the torso somewhere, but we're spacious in the armpits. So we don't close the armpits, we open them. That releases the shoulders down towards the floor. Head can be supported. If your head tips back, you should definitely support it, but you might like a little bit of support anyway. It's okay for the chin to slightly incline forward, so a little support creates that action that actually opens up the back of the throat. And then we can feel into the flow of the breath. So we've got this positioning of the body, and then in that, what we feel, if we have taken care in our positioning of the body, what we feel is a total release there. So let's take some full conscious breaths. We bring a quality of mindfulness to the breathing experience, so we follow each breath. But as we follow each breath and tune our focus into the breath, there is also this spacious, open presence that includes our whole experience. So hopefully when we come to the close of our yoga asana practice, we have awakened the body enough to be able to feel into this simultaneous open presence and a refined focus. But it's all held very lightly. Now, I would love for you, if you, of course, have the time to do this, to stay and breathe and just give yourself to this. But if you need to move now, to get on with your day, you may bend your knees and place your feet to the floor, adjusting your pelvis as you need to, so you're comfortable in the lower back. Finding the breath, and if you're happy to roll to both sides, you may just roll onto your right side, pause there for a moment. If you prefer to roll onto one side, you can just roll to your right side and remain there. And then if you're happy to roll to your left side too, roll onto that side and pause there. And then in your own time, bring yourselves up from your side and come to a comfortable seated posture. Any comfortable seat is fine. We'll just bring our hands up to the heart to close our practice together. So we might give the hands a little rub, create a little energy there between the hands, and then place it in front of your heart center and pause there. So we'll close with a single Om. So let's take a breath in to prepare. Thank you all very much. Namaste, Namuvaha. Reverence to you all. Thank you. It's always lovely, always a pleasure to spend some time with you. So